Hello. I probably should entitle this the Jealous and Angry Woodworker. I've been watching some YouTube videos lately. A lot of great channels on YouTube about woodworking. And it's probably too strong to say jealous and angry, but let me tell you a couple things that really bug me. I see so much skill at creating video, shooting, editing, creating the video. It just astounds me, and I love that, and I'm jealous of that. So there's the jealous part. And I do see skill when it comes to the craft, but I still am angry about the fact that I see so much video of so many people cramming something into a machine or cramming a machine into the wood. I see so much of that. And I don't know if you ever should say never, but I almost can promise you, you will never see me slam something through a machine. You will never see me push a piece of wood through a thickness plane. You will never... I can't imagine why you would ever see me do that. I can't imagine that I'll ever do that. You know, I guess if there was absolutely no other way to do it, you might see that. But I don't think so. I don't think you'll ever see me push something through a thickness plane machine. I don't think you'll ever see me push something through a joiner. I doubt that I'll ever show you table sawing, that you'll ever see me push something through a table saw. And if I do, the only reason it might be is that there is value in showing people how to safely use a machine. But ultimately, me or any other YouTuber, we don't want to vouch for our own safety that you should imitate us. Most YouTubers will say, do this at your own risk. You're responsible for your own safety, and you are. So I don't think I'd get into, you know, I might talk about safety, but I would probably never show you me using a machine and saying, here's how you're supposed to do this, because I take my guards off and always have. So I doubt if you'll ever see me push something through a table saw. You might. It's possible, because I am a hybrid shop and I do use a table saw. You might see me push something through a bandsaw. I doubt it. You might see me lathing. I think that's a very real possibility, because I don't think I'll ever have a spring pole lathe, and if I want to lathe, I'm going to use a motorized lathe. I'll probably do a lot of projects that don't involve lathing, though. I want to do things that the average Joe can do with one proviso, and that is if this average Joe is willing to acquire skill, actual skill with a tool. And I'm not trying to set myself up as the pinnacle of that skill. In fact, I fully intend to show my own struggles, to show my own strengths and weaknesses. I think that's what's authentic and real. That somebody like me that's done this for 34 years, somebody that's made their living from carpentry and woodworking, because I've done as much woodworking as I have carpentry. I do carpentry when I don't have anything to do in the woodworking field, and I run out of things to do, and then I go out, I leave my house, and I go do carpentry for people. I'll go hang a door, I'll go renovate something. I have to fall back on that to put groceries on the table. And I know carpentry, and I still wouldn't set myself up as the pinnacle of carpenters. You know, I don't build houses. I grew up doing commercial carpentry, but I have built houses. And when it comes to doing something in a home, there's nothing in a home I can't do, including building the home. So I don't have any poor self-esteem in the area of carpentry, but I still wouldn't say I'm the pinnacle of carpenters by any means. And then woodworking, I know I'm, just one of many out there that has a certain echelon, and maybe we'll never get beyond that, I don't know. But I do know this, that we have used machines in our modern time. We have used them for two reasons. And the chief reason that most people would give, and it is one of the reasons, but it's not the chief reason, but the chief reason that most people would give is that we need the speed and production. And I can understand that coming from a business person. They have a 6,000 square foot shop, they make their business out of making cabinets and all that, and production to them is everything for profit. And so they would say, we use machines for production. We use them for speed and efficiency. That would be the chief reason. And I think most people that are not in a business environment, not making a dime from woodworking, use that same reason. Oh, well, this is... But the real reason, if they're going to be honest, that we see so much machinery is that we have replaced skill with machinery. We have replaced the actual skill with something that a machine can do. And right away the critics would say, well, it takes skill to run the machine right, it takes skill to set up and do the router right, and make the jig that makes the router work, and and yes, there is a whole nother layer now in woodworking that involves skill with machines. But at the bottom of it all, if we're going to be honest, the machine has replaced skill. It truly has. There was a day when a vice impinged on the skill of the woodworker to hold the work another way. And then a vice was invented and said, here's a faster way, do it this way. But he already had methods plenty adequate to hold the work. But somebody said, usually somebody that was selling his efforts and profiting from his skill rather than their own, somebody would say, no, here you got to do it this way. And they invented iron vices and certain kinds of bench vices. Meanwhile, he was completely efficient and happy and skilled with a viceless bench. And there's YouTube videos about viceless benches if you don't believe that there is such a thing. And there was. There was ways of holding the work long before a vice came into being. And that was a technological advancement. Oh, we've got to have this. Makes you faster. We got to have this. Now we look at this as old-fashioned, that you're going to hold work and do some hand thing to it. That's now old-fashioned. But I just would make this promise that whatever you see me do, good or bad, you probably won't ever see me push something through a machine. You probably won't see me do too much with machines. And that may bother some people. They may say, well, that's just not good enough for me. That's not interesting. That's not in the 21st century. That's not woodworking. And I say to you that kind of woodworking really is only about 50 years old. We were using machines 100 years ago. The industrial age came in, and yes, there was big factory machines and all that. So yes, there was machinery. But in the home workshop, or even in the small business, it's only been in the last 50 to 60 years that machines took over. And in terms of the home workshop, I'll tell you something I really blame. And it's ironic to say this now, because there was a person in the 80s, and there was a show where old houses were fixed up, and there was a carpenter on that show, and he was pretty darn skilled. And the segments of that show that were exceptionally popular with the viewership were things where that carpenter went into his shop and made something that was involved in the renovation of that particular old house. And that led to him doing a show, woodworking show. And by God, he always had every latest machine, tool, and everything. And here we go down that path in America where you need this biscuit joiner, you need this doweling jig, you need this router dovetailing jig, you need a table saw like this with a fence like this, and you need this 36-inch drum sander, belt sander thing, you need this kind of miter sawing station, and this kind of radial arm saw, and this kind of band saw, and you need to have this size and shape of a shop, and you got to have all this. This is what woodworking is. And you know, the guards were always removed for clarity, instead of just being honest that the guards was never on the machine. But you know, you got to be careful, because we've only removed the guard so for clarity for the camera and the viewers to see this table saw. You know, that was a lie. I guarantee you that was a lie. And a chisel, you know, a chisel was used to just clean up something. You know, we'll drill and chop and saw this thing, and then we'll clean it up with a chisel. That's all a chisel was ever used for. It wasn't actually used to make dovetails. It wasn't actually used to chop a mortise, ever. It was just used to clean up something. And there's shows on today that are still doing this. And you know, why go into a rant on this? I know people are going to say, there goes Jeff again with philosophical crap. And I'll tell you why to be angry about this. Is that if you'll be honest, you're probably never going to have those machines. And if you do, you're going to have so darn much debt and so much cost to you. And for a home wood shop, how in the world can that be cost effective? How in the world can that be wise? To buy that stuff just so you can replace the skill you should be acquiring to make little things in most cases a one-off scenario. You know, you're making one of them. And it's really stupid if you set that all up just so you can make YouTube videos. Well, so I want to make my living on YouTube. That's even a stranger animal than what I'm talking about, because now we're talking about a guy that just wants to make money talking about woodworking. Not really making anything that, you know, he may make something for the show, but really it's about the show. It's still not about the wood. It's still not about woodworking. It's still not about being an everyday working shop. And so my endeavor is to show you an everyday struggling workman that does this for a living and still cares more about the wood and the project than the shop. Because I've said this before and I'll say it again, for most that I see, especially on YouTube, but for most people, the freaking shop is the project. And the stuff they make in it is just to justify having all this shit. And that, to me, I must be getting old, because that, to me, just blows my mind that that's the mentality that's so pervasive. And I blame this carpenter old house show that I was mentioning, this guy, I blame that as being the starting point of this mentality. That to do this, you got to have this machine. And it's, I said earlier, it's ironic to talk that way, because now if you go back and look at his TV shows. They're a joke compared to what they're doing today. They're so outdated and antiquated, it's a joke what he did compared to new woodworking shows and new woodworkers with unbelievable more stuff, bigger machines and better equipment and everything. That guy looks like he was struggling along on a shoestring compared to them all, and including home shops on freaking YouTube that aren't making a dime from this, except maybe off of their YouTube subscriptions and viewership or whatever. But they're not working shops that sell the stuff they make. And they have more equipment than this guy who was doing these TV shows, who had more equipment than half the shops at that time. So this is a rant, and it's provocative. I'm sure it may be something I don't even know if I'll post this. If I do, we'll see what kind of response it creates, and how much it irritates people, and if it's too irritating, then maybe I'll take it back down. I don't know, but I have to get this off my chest, because the bottom line is all I see is skill being replaced with machines. So just ask yourself, someday when they don't need you to run that machine, then where will you be? Because the machine does the work and another machine runs the machine, and they don't need you. It's just a thought. Thanks for watching.